Welcome to the TXWaterpolo Podcast. Prep season is in full gear with St. Mark's and Foster atop the tables, a fistful of Player of the Week nominations, and finally, ODP National Championships. I'm James Smith in Austin, and that's Joe Linehan in North Texas. Joe, have we bitten off more than we can chew? Like this was the busiest weekend we've had so far.
It's a good problem, James. It's a good problem.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm doing well. There's lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. And we're going to start with all of our prep stuff. That we announced it a couple weeks ago that we were going to do this. We asked for your input. And you came through big. We had hundreds of high school games already, or over 100, that is. And just this last week. And we already have week one rankings from our coaches panel. Plus, we had over a dozen nominations for Player of the Week honors. So let's get to them, yeah?
Sure. Yeah, let's go.
St. Mark's, unanimous, number one, according to our coaches. They went undefeated over the weekend, although my understanding is 9-8 win over Geyer. That's a great outcome.
Go ahead. I mean, I believe it. I didn't see the game, but I heard about it from a couple different people. It was a tie game and kind of nip and tuck the whole way. And it was still tied with like a minute to go. And then I think there was a turnover that Geyer kind of had a turnover. And then there was an exclusion. And St. Mark's scored in the last minute to get the 9-8 win. So
wow.
There was two of the stronger teams out there playing. And I think St. Mark's deserves to be in the number one spot this year.
I think so, too, for now. I know that. About 10 points behind them, I think, in the voting was Foster. And they, too, were undefeated over the weekend.
Actually, they only played one game. They didn't play this weekend. They played one game last week. So.
My mistake, right. So their vote is largely by reputation and also that one win. And this is the interesting thing. I think by next week things may turn over a bit. But Geyer was tied for third in the ratings with Flower Mound, and that again after their 1-goal loss to St. Mark's.
Yeah, and then another kind of like right now, I think Carroll's 5th in the state rankings right now for boys.
Yes. And
then Marcus is 10th. But Marcus beat Carroll 8-4 this past weekend.
Well, so yeah, we just do the top 5 because once you start getting into the lower ones, then the scores become a little dicey. In fact, Southlake is, they were most definitely in fourth place. No, fifth. And then the other teams that were getting votes were Memorial from Houston, Dawson, Jesuit, Marcus, and I should note from Austin, Texas, McCallum High School.
Yeah, it's definitely the 4 strongest teams with the most points that are kind of very separated from everybody else are St. Mark's, Foster, Flower Mound, and Geyer. So
I think that was generally speaking what everybody was predicting. So we'll see if things shake out that way as the games continue. I have to give a little note about the Austin area. So their first tournament over the weekend. I mentioned McCallum. They went 2-0. By far were the highest scorers in the weekend against the usual West Region suspects. But 2 years ago they did not have a team. And so this just goes to show you that that kind of growth can happen in a very short period of time.
And plus, you get a couple kids that play club on that team, and they're not just growth, but they're going to be good real quick too.
Precisely, yeah. The top teams in the West are McAllen and Austin High School again. So those are teams that just didn't exist a couple of years ago. It's very good news for the region. All right, on the girls' side,
it's very similar. On the girls' side, there's 4 teams that are kind of separated from everybody else right now. I think Foster's number 1, Geyer's number 2, Flower Mound's number 3. St. Agnes is number 4, and then in 5th place is Southlake Carroll. So
Foster only 2 points ahead of Geyer. So that goes to show you that level of competition is quite a bit tighter. Now that might change on the boys' side as St. Mark's. Who knows what's going to happen and whether Geyer continues its streak. But on the girls' side, obviously a much tighter race at the top. But then after those top 5, and like you said, Carroll is in 5th. Then a couple other teams got noticed. Cypress Creek, Memorial from Houston, and Cy Springs, they all got votes as well. Again, a rankings that I think we expected to see from the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and then just a little bit of a North Texas thing. Again, Carroll, who is 5th place for girls, they tied Marcus.
Right.
So and Marcus I don't think got a vote. So kind of shout out to Brandon Dion, who's doing a good job over there at Marcus. So
keep that in mind, coaches, when your votes come in this next week. And just a short comment on that. We're going to so two things. One is we're not going to publish regional rankings yet. The numbers just aren't high enough. The tabulation method is all ready. We can basically push that stuff out there, but the numbers, they're not high enough. Secondly, we're going to open the panel up to more coaches. So those of you who are listening, get ready to check your inbox. There's going to hopefully be an invitation from me in the coming week. Obviously what we would prefer to have is a steady group of, say, 20 coaches. That's going to be difficult, but that would be the optimal way for us to continue voting throughout the whole year. But we will take what we can get so far. So first week, I'm very pleased. We had plenty of votes and plenty of nominations for Players of the Week. Are you ready? We'll go over those.
Sure, of course.
Excited. First week.
On the girls' side, I believe the girls for the Player of the Week for offense is going to be Gwyneth Lee from Flower Mound High School.
She got nominated for both Offensive Player of the Year and Rookie of the Week. Yeah. I said week.
Yeah, she's a ninth grader, but she's going to win the Offensive Player of the Week.
Yep.
I think her team came out strong. And then I think she had 6 goals over the 2 games, and they beat Denton and Denton Braswell. So yeah. So congratulations to Gwyneth Lee. I'm sure it's not going to be her last award for sure.
A good start on defense from St. Agnes Academy, Abigail Shelby. Senior, she had a pretty strong weekend. She's a goalkeeper who earned 31 saves and 6 steals over the course of 3 regular season games. And then Rookie
of the Year from Geyer High School in North Texas is Gwendolyn Smith. She played, this was her first water polo tournament, but she totaled 5 goals in 3 games this past weekend. And then she accumulated many steals. So it's a great piece to an already strong team. So
the person who nominated her called her defensive skills amazing. I really like that part. So when we published that piece,
the best part about that nomination, it was from one of her teammates.
Right.
It was from one of her teammates, which is great. So.
Look, the same holds true for our nominations as it does for coaches and for those who submit stories and such, or even donors, those of you who are gracious enough to give money. We're not going to tell people who you are unless you tell us we can. So that's why we're not talking about who nominates these athletes, but we can make mention of that. It might be a coach, it might be a parent, it might be an athlete, and I know that you love when the athletes nominate one another.
I think it's great.
Yeah. Boys side. Let's start with the Offensive Player of the Week. Ricardo Coletti, Jersey Village. He's a junior. He had a big weekend, actually. Averaged 5 goals a game, so 20 games over 4 wins at the CFISD round robin, and Jersey Village started strong.
Yeah, and the Defensive Player of the Week is Nick Coulter from Foster High School. And they only played a single game against Straight Jesuit, but he dominated as a center defender, and he's one of the best defenders in the state. He had a few steals, and I think he had 5 different assists. So
yeah, well done.
That's a great way to start, and and I think he did a lot in a very short period of time.
And the rookie?
And the Rookie of the Week is Isaac Fernandez Lopez from Pearland Dawson. Their team this past weekend played in the Alvin tournament, and they went 5-0. And Isaac is one of the most experienced and best freshmen out there in the state of Texas. He's one of the most aware and aggressive players. So
nice work.
I think it's a great little group of players of the week. So.
Awesome. Really good stuff. I mean, and as we mentioned, we're going to hopefully we're going to do this weekly, but that's it for the high school section, I think. And we'll be back with more stuff.
Sorry with it. He's out of Fort Worth, Texas. One of the few non-California guys, and Zach Lowry skips it in. We're level again.
In many podcasts, this time would be filled with ads for electric toothbrushes or recruiting services. Not here. Instead, we're asking you to show your support for TXWaterpolo by donating to it. Go to txwaterpolo.com/donate and help us continue covering the sport we love in the Lone Star State.
Hi, I'm U.S. Olympian Janai Kerr, and when I need to stay up to date with my water polo news in Texas, I listen to the TXWaterpolo Podcast.
The huge first weekend of prep polo is done, but there's a lot more to talk about, Joe. There's this weekend is full of stuff as well. I mean, we can talk about the high school schedule, and we will, but as we've been talking about for weeks, ODP National Championships in Riverside, they're coming this weekend. I'm going. You're not going, right?
I am not going, no.
I can completely understand that. In fact, I literally just got the rooming list, so I know who our athletes are going to be staying with. But it's a big tournament. I know that our Southwest Zone teams have challenging first games, as they always do. But I'm excited for it. It's as you know, I get a little stressed out about organizing this stuff. So that's one thing that I'll look forward to being over with. But then after the last games, I miss it. So I'm already looking forward to next year.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend though, while you're out there in Riverside and enjoying the sunshine of Southern California.
Sunshine. See.
Yeah, well, it's always kind of hit and miss in Riverside, but there is the Thunder Spring Invite, which is a tournament. I think they have about 30 teams out there for 8th grade and 6th grade and under. They even have a couple 4th grade and younger games going on this weekend in South Lake.
Okay. 4th grade and under? That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's essentially 10 and under now. So yeah.
Cool.
And we had 5 teams at the Dare to Dream back in January, so this is the natural next step. So, and then there's also a bunch of high school tournaments. I think Flower Mountain High School is hosting one up in North Texas. There's a bunch. There's like 2 or 3 different ones down in Houston. Is there a high school tournament this weekend in Austin?
No, not that I'm aware. Hang on, let me look at the calendar. But there's nothing particularly local. I think there's actually going to be one in San Antonio. You've got the Rio Grande Valley one that you know more about than anyone, and then that's all I see for this weekend.
Yeah, and then so there will be a Rio Grande Valley tournament this weekend, and in Harlingen. And then there's the Northside ISD will have their intra-district kind of game day this upcoming Saturday as well.
Okay. All right.
So there's a lot going on. I mean, that's what at least 4 different areas plus the CWPA Women's Division games at Rice this Saturday and Sunday.
Yep.
So we have people going in 1,000 different directions this weekend. Whether it's athletes, coaches, parents. So so it can be challenging, but that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Step up the challenge and make it all work.
I know, but it's
go ahead.
It's tiresome, or it's not tiresome. It's like I'm tired. Like there's so much work to be done, Joe. We have scores to look at. We've got rankings to do. We've got all that stuff. It's super fun, but
these are first world water polo problems, James. Okay? All right. So this is. I would rather be too busy than not enough. So
yeah, fair enough.
And this weekend, we have a couple developmental clubs, under the USA Water Polo umbrella, and it's called Lone Star Mavericks. They have entered a couple teams for this upcoming weekend for the Thunder Spring Invite, and we have coaches that are going to be coaching high school, and we have some coaches that are also going to be kind of reffing high school. So I have to come out of retirement and coach a team this weekend.
Which one?
I'm going to be coaching the Lone Star Mavericks 8th grade and under girls team.
Okay, well, everybody knows that it's at South Lake Carroll, right?
Yes.
Yeah, when you hear somebody screaming from the opposite side of the pool, it's Joe Linehan.
It's not screaming. It's what? It's coaching loudly.
Encouragement. All right.
Coaching loudly. Teaching.
Okay,
I say 2 words more than anything else. Swim, and defense. So there you go.
Especially the 4th graders, right?
This is going to be 8th grade and under girls. So, and I'll be helping out the other teams too, kind of here and there.
Good. Right. And we wanted to mention a little bit, at least, about referees and coaches. You said the coaches are going to be quite busy, which is absolutely true. This is the time of year when coaches are the most swamped. The high school games, I mean, there were hundreds of games already, or over 100 games over this last weekend. So imagine every team needing a coach. And, there's probably at least 50% of high school coaches are also club coaches. Maybe that's a little too high, but I know in this area in the West, we need more coaches. In fact, I forgot to mention, Joe, I got to talk to you about somebody that I want to hire. But anyway, we know that they're going to be very busy this week and weeks upcoming. So what is it that you wanted to share about the entire coaching system in the state of Texas?
Well, it's not really coaching necessarily. It's just, it's just planning. Yeah. It's being organized and kind of looking at schedules and working together. Like, for example, we have a coach that is going to be coaching in the morning for high school, and then after he's done, then he's going to come over and coach at the club tournament in the afternoon.
Right.
So it's just that, we had to look at the schedule and kind of see, as opposed to, oh, I can't do it. No, you got to find solutions. And it's the same thing with the referees. I know the referees have a very big challenge on their hands this weekend, but you got to find some solutions, and there might be some single referees on some games here or there, but this is the sign of progress. We have a lot now. We need to recruit a lot more referees, and we need to educate a whole lot more coaches and clubs and teams. There might be some people that, have coached other sports, and they might want to come over and help out, or parents that might want to coach. You just need to sit there and kind of be prepared and kind of welcome all the different people, and kind of just get them on the pool deck and see if they can work out. I mean, right. I have done that numerous times over the years, times. And we've talked about a lot of different coaches that I've said, hey, why don't you just come out once a week and start helping? And then they come out once a week, and then the next season it's twice a week. And then a year later, they're coaching 3 or 4 days a week, and they love it. I mean, we even got a coach one time, we pulled him off a lifeguard stand.
Right.
Because we needed help with a splash ball clinic. We had 40 kids show up. We only had 2 coaches, and I go, hey, can you help out, please? And because I had gotten to know the coach, and he was like, sure. And that was his first taste of coaching. Now that particular person, I'm not going to name names, but that particular person is a full-time teacher and coach. And that's what he does, and he also runs a water polo club. So
I had a similar situation. Our first splash ball session at Aquatex on Saturday went quite nicely with my new coach. So I'm very happy about that. We're finally making some inroads up here in West Texas in order to get splash ball off the ground. So good news all around. And I also know that there were at least 2, maybe 3 new referees in the West at that Longhorn tournament this weekend. I have my insiders that told me what was going on. So I'm actually really surprised in some ways. Like, I didn't think that they would pick up that many new referees. That's very good news.
Yeah, like this past weekend, I was down and did a referee and coaches and athlete clinic down in Harlingen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just down the valley. And last year we did this, and it was still very new to everybody last year, and we had maybe a couple referees and maybe 1 or 2 coaches that came out. We didn't have an athlete clinic last year.
Right.
But this year we had 25 total people at the referee clinic.
And Jonathan Landero, who's one of the Pied Piper coaches down there, tweeted a photo and said there were over 90 athletes who showed up too. Great news.
Yeah. And but there was 25 different people for referees. This was awesome. I mean, half of them were coaches, which is great because coaches should be going to referee clinics.
Yeah.
And then we had another 20 coaches at the coaches clinic, which is huge. Then we originally had 1 2-hour athlete clinic kind of scheduled, and we were going to cut it off at 50 athletes, and we ended up with 100 plus.
Wow.
So then we just split it up into 2 separate sections of an hour and a half. And my only thing was that just made me have to run to the airport a little bit quicker. So
they're going to start competing soon. So do you have an estimate for how many teams they're going to field down there for the high school season?
I mean, there was about 7 or 8 different high schools that played last year, and they play with both boys and girls. I think there's 16 games this upcoming weekend.
Wow.
So I think that's 8 boys and 8 girls teams. So those are the teams that are playing this upcoming weekend are mainly the teams that played last year. There were a bunch of new teams and new coaches out at the clinics this past weekend, and there were brand new athletes, and I think it's just going to keep growing. I mean, it's I think we're getting a couple more teams from the McAllen area, a few more teams from the Brownsville area that are going to start playing. They may not play a whole lot. They may play kind of 1 or 2 tournaments, and we have their own Rio Grande Valley Championships. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, this spring and next spring is going to be about just growing and getting people the opportunity to play before we go in the fall of 2021 UIL season.
Yeah, very exciting. All right, we'll wind that up for now and come back with a couple of outstanding items.
You're listening to the TXWaterpolo Podcast.
Hey, this is Marc Lowrance from Austin College, head coach of the men's and women's water polo programs and home of our Kangaroos. When I'm interested in what's going on with Texas water polo, I always listen to the TXWaterpolo Podcast.
James and Joe wrapping things up on maybe the busiest podcast weekend that we've had so far, which is not saying much. But we have a couple more things upcoming, right? Spring break is going to be here, and there's a few things that, man, you're involved in everything, Joe. So what's going on during spring break?
I don't think I'm involved in everything.
Everything?
No, there's not. There's a lot of people. I go out and help out people here and there. That's what I do. I do know that Janai Kerr is going to be down in Houston during spring break. I think he's doing he's working with the Cypher ISD people for a camp on March 9th, 10th, 11th at their new pool. I think he's doing another clinic on March 12th down in Pearland. So he's going to be busy during spring break. He normally comes to Texas kind of during spring break. So that's great. It's always nice to have Janai come down.
Is there a person on the planet who does not like Janai Kerr?
I don't think so. Yeah, Janai is one of the great ambassadors of our sport. He's great. Everybody loves him. Coaches love him. Like parents love him. The athletes love him. So it's great.
Janai is a listener, so I'm sucking up to Janai. And again, apologies for not being in Central Texas when you offered to do a clinic up here. I'm very that's unfortunate, but I'm going to be on the road anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And then I'm actually going to be at the same time frame. I'm doing a camp at Northside ISD in San Antonio on March 9th, 10th, 11th. It's going to be just for the Northside ISD people, but I'm going to be working with their coaches and athletes, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to be in that big stadium pool down there at the Northside ISD Swim Center. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Tell me more. I mean, Northside ISD, from my understanding, is all in on UIL. So when the sport becomes UIL in a year and a half from now, then those teams that used to play back before 2012, 2013 are all back in the fold. So is this camp, this clinic, intended to sort of get people ready for that, or is it for their fall season, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, they're playing during the spring, so like they're starting this upcoming weekend. And they're playing 4 different weekends now in the spring. And it's only intra-district games.
Yes.
And so that's this spring. In spring of 2021, they're going to play full TXW water polo. They'll still have their intra-district kind of tournaments and such. But then they're going to be able, the teams are going to be able to go to the different tournaments in the West Region and the West Region champs, and maybe even go up to North Texas or Houston for a tournament.
Right.
And then everybody is just going to transition into the fall of 2021 for UIL.
Super exciting. I have mixed feelings about that, and you know why? Because I want the San Antonio teams back very badly, but when they come back, they're going to be highly competitive, and they're going to, I have to. It just means that I have to coach my kids even better to compete against those teams.
And there's already one San Antonio team back.
Alamo Heights, welcome back.
Alamo Heights. Yeah. So shout out to Norm Collins, who is now the head coach for the swimming and water polo teams there at Alamo Heights. He's also the former head coach for the Alamo Heights swimming and water polo teams. And he was actually at one point the Southwest Zone chair back in the 90s.
All right.
So, I mean, he got into administration, and kind of took some time off from the pool deck for a few years. But it's great to have Norm back on the pool deck and kind of moving forward, because he's a great ambassador for the sport. He's gonna be helping them out. It's gonna be fun. And plus, we have a lot of stuff going on. There's game days happening in March. There's going to be the Southside Badger Brawl, which is another 8th grade and under tournament happening the first week of April. And then we get into the championship season for the high school kids. There's a Masters tournament happening at U of H at the end of April. And then, of course, we finish kind of the spring season with the Texas Age Group State water polo champs, which is the 8th grade and 6th grade state champs, May 9th and 10th back up in North Texas. So.
Yeah, nobody can complain about not having enough water polo. It's so
I'm
much.
sure there will be somebody that complains. So
Alamo Heights is coming to our tournament. I'm very happy about that. He was very excited to get involved. Not the one that we're hosting a tournament on the 6th and 7th up at Round Rock, and then we're hosting again at the end of March. 29th, I think, is Saturday, whatever the Saturday is, just a one-day tournament, and they're coming to that one. So I don't think I've ever met the guy, but I'm looking forward to having them up to Round Rock.
Yeah, it's going to be good, and I bet they're going to be very competitive too.
I'll bet they are. Again, I don't coach high school this year, but if I did, I'd be a little worried about playing those guys.
All right, well, good luck to everybody that's playing this upcoming weekend or hosting, or a parent that has a kid at 2 different places, or if you're flying, kind of be safe traveling out the Riverside.
Yeah.
And kind of good luck to your teams out there, James.
Thanks, Joe. Well, Frenzy continues next week, right?
Yep.
I'll talk to you on Tuesday. So thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone, for listening and for telling a friend about the TX Waterpolo Podcast. Go to TXWaterpolo.com to listen to the podcast. Find us on social media. Leave comments. Give to the cause, which we're extremely grateful for. That is going toward, hopefully, some stuff that's going to help us this spring in particular with high school. There's just so much data to work with. Go there to nominate players, which you've done. Submit game stories. That's enough vamping. Until next week, so long from Austin.